Welcome to It Starts With Whiskey, the podcast where every conversation begins with a sip of whiskey and takes us on a journey through the diverse landscapes of life. I'm Ryan.
I'm Thee.
And I'm JoJo.
Together we'll embark on an adventure filled with spirited discussions fueled by our love for whiskey and ignited by our passion for exploring the world around us.
And of course, no conversation is off limits. From thought-provoking debates to lighthearted banter, expect a healthy dose of controversy as we navigate through the complexities of life.
So grab your favorite glass, pour yourself a dram, and join us on It Starts With Whiskey, where every episode is an adventure waiting to unfold.
Welcome to Episode 3, Obsessions That Give Us Fits.
We're excited to be here with you today and discuss our obsessions both with whiskey and other life passions. Remember, it starts with whiskey.
Thanks, Joe. Well, to get the legal stuff out of the way, let's get through this disclaimer so that everybody knows the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of our hosts and guests sitting at the table today. They do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any whiskey brand, distillery, or affiliated company. The content discussed is intended for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Please don't consider us professional or any endorsement of products discussed.
So, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about some good stuff today, Ryan. We're going to talk about obsessions and passions, everything in between. We have a wonderful guest here today. I'd like to introduce everybody to Eve Julian.
Hello.
My better half.
You got that right?
She's here to keep me in check
That's
today
right.
as we...
Always.
Always does.
So, Joe, what's been going on since last time we talked to you?
So I've been on a few trips. I went to Dallas for a 24-hour, turn and burn. I had to do a 30-minute presentation at a conference.
They don't let you do those on Zoom?
No.
Okay.
But I did manage to make it over to a little bourbon bar called Bourbon and Banter. It had like a speakeasy vibe to it.
Ooh, I love those.
Yeah, me too. And I wasn't there awful long, maybe like an hour and a half, but it was really cool, had a neat vibe. And then I came home and then flew to Seattle. Kind of the same thing, a quick turn and burn. But I didn't manage to make it over to Radiator Whiskey. It was rustic but chic, if that makes any sense. That was a neat place. And then I got to go to Louisville this week. And I went to this really cool place. It was called 7 Bourbon and Cocktails. And it's maybe 6 weeks been open. And I don't even know how to describe it, but just say that it's got a cool vibe. When you walk in, it's inviting. It's kind of got a dark feel. You can smell kind of the smoke of them smoking cocktails in the air. It was really great. And I managed to pick up a couple bottles of bourbon. I got a Weller Blue Label, and I got a single barrel E.H. Taylor.
And lit my text messages up with pictures of
I did.
overpriced bourbons that you asked me if I wanted to buy.
Oh, man.
I know, but I didn't know if there was anything you wanted that I could get my little paws on.
And I appreciate that.
Yep.
I do want to say that I'm real impressed that he did not have you pick anything up.
He did not. I was surprised.
It's so much better than it used to be.
He's growing. He's growing with age. What about you, Ryan? Where have you been?
So last week, I was in Chicago or south side of Chicago at Joliet. Couple of my favorite liquor stores are there, and a very cool restaurant, Industry Tap House. And they have an amazing selection of bourbons and Pappy and just about everything you can imagine there, and affordable, which is good. And I also went to next door to that is one of my favorite liquor stores, and I ended up picking up E.H. Taylor, a Clyde Mays store pick, which I picked up the last time I was there, and it got drank at the Super Bowl party. So I had to get a replacement for that. And then I spent some time out in Iowa, lovely Iowa. I guess, Caitlin Clark Central, because every restaurant and bar had her pictures, and she's making some money. I'm pretty sure.
It's because she's awesome.
She is.
Yeah.
She's a phenomenal player.
I hate to admit that you had to teach me who she is.
Well, now you know.
I know.
That's so disappointing.
I know. I feel like I've been missing out on life until this week, so I'm so glad that you.
We
Well,
were blowing her up.
Just a little tidbit on the upcoming game, Ohio State, Iowa, coming up.
Yeah.
Tickets for that game are going for over $415
Oh my
a seat. The highest average price ticket for basketball this year.
Well, and it's a women's game.
And it's a women's game. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, did I hear right? Ohio sealed the Big Ten championship?
Ohio State did, yeah.
Yeah.
Women did this past week,
Yeah, Thursday.
over Michigan.
All
So
right.
big rivalry game. And yeah, so they're doing well.
Well, very good.
Okay, moving on to anything else we wanted to catch up on?
Not from me. What about you, Thee?
Yeah, I haven't traveled. Not unlike you guys that we went over last time. I don't do a lot of traveling, but things have been busy at home, just in the normal process of life, I guess. We did go out a couple of nights ago. We enjoyed a night out at One Bourbon in downtown Grand Rapids. The three of us tried a few interesting whiskeys.
Shout out to Matt,
Yeah,
our bartender,
that's right.
Yep.
Yep.
mixologist. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
Very
Great.
knowledgeable.
Yeah. Maybe sometime he can come on the show with us.
And the food was amazing.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Salivating.
We
over it.
all had a smoked ribeye dinner,
Yep.
and that was
Unbelievable.
amazing.
Someday we'll have to talk about that food pairings and whiskey, but I will have to say that that steak went really well with the whiskey that night. It was good.
Yep. So speaking of whiskey,
Speaking of, what are we
and
doing
as you
today?
as you could tell by the title, today we're going to do a tasting of Old Fitz 17 year, and that is one that Joe brought back for us, and then I acquired from her, and give you a little intro about the Old Fitz product. This one is 17 year, released in 2022. And this is off of the Old Fitz website. Each spring and fall, a new edition of the Old Fitzgerald Bottled in Bond series is released, inspired by an original 1950s Old Fitz Diamond decanter. So these all come with a pretty fancy decanter, which Joe talked the place in Kentucky into giving to her to bring back for us for our infinity bottle.
Yep.
The Old Fitzgerald line is well known for its distilling pedigree, as the brand was first registered in 1884 and was eventually sold to Pappy Van Winkle during Prohibition. In 1999, Heaven Hill bought the brand and began distilling it at the Bernheim Distillery in Louisville, Kentucky. Today, in addition to their Old Fitz decanter series, the legacy of Old Fitz lives in our other weeded bourbons expressions, Larceny Small Batch, Larceny Barrel Proof. So this one comes in at 100 proof. Just a quick little overview. Straight bourbon, distilled at Heaven Hill. Release date was April 2022. The mash bill on this is 75% corn, 20% wheat, 5% malted barley, and color was molasses, and MSRP was a whopping $185 if you could get it at MSRP, which
Fat chance.
fat chance, and hell, that happens.
In
But
2022.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Wait.
before
I gotta interject because something came to mind while you were describing that. How do you do with pronouncing Louisville?
Louisville,
Louisville.
Did
Yeah.
you do all right?
Yeah.
Did I do all right?
Yeah.
Okay,
You
I gotta
just
work
gotta
on
put
that.
you gotta put marbles in your mouth in Louisville.
There you go.
okay, so you guys go ahead and smell and taste, and it is a darker colored, very mature, kind of caramely / molasses looking color. based on the look on Eve's face, she
Too
got the
bad you
full
can't
100
see
proof.
this. I'm sure that was a fantastic face. Whew.
You know, it's okay for the audience. Eve's not a huge whiskey drinker. It doesn't mean we don't love her, though.
No, Ryan has been trying for like 4 years now to get me, here, try this one. You're going to love this one. There has only been one that we have found that I actually can drink. So, yeah, and this is not it.
Throw some ice in there.
I feel like
Yeah.
for most people, whiskey is like many journeys of trying different alcohol. Wine, for example. I did not like wine years ago. Didn't care for it at all. Then somebody's like, you know, here, try a sweeter wine. And then you start kind of branching out and trying different things. And, you know, for me, the same thing with whiskey. I didn't particularly care for the first couple of whiskeys I tried, you know, and then just that open mind and that development of your palate. And
You mean burning the taste buds off?
This doesn't.
I
do
mean, that could be. I did start with Canadian whiskey.
I think we all
It
kind of
could've-
started with Canadian whiskey.
it
I'm
could've.
anxious for her to tell us if there's a difference with the ice.
Oh, yes, the ice is better. It does not burn all the way down. So, yeah.
Does it? Do you feel like it opens it up a little bit, like a different flavor?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what it is I'm tasting.
I was going to ask you, since you don't
'Cause
read reviews,
It
what
smells
are
like caramel.
Okay.
It doesn't taste like caramel.
We love her.
you? Honesty.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it is I'm tasting. It does not taste like I'm licking the inside of an oak barrel. Sometimes they do. But this one is not that.
What are
Maybe,
you tasting?
maybe straw.
You know, I do have a sweetness with this Fitz. Like there is a sweetness. It's
Yeah.
not caramel per se for me. So I agree with Eve. I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting. I don't taste as harsh as I think Eve might be portraying, but that could be because
It's only 100 proof.
I'm a wimp.
We're
I don't know what
used
to
to
say.
it. We're used to it, but
What are you tasting, Joe?
You know, for me, I like this one. It's very smooth. It's good. I love the 10-year. And when I was in in Louisville, I had 14-year and brought the empty bottle back with me. I like 10-year, then the 17, and then the 14, based on the ones I've tried so far. And then when we go back to one bourbon, I'm going to try the 8. But what am I tasting with this one? I don't know. It's really smooth. I don't know, almost like a vanilla.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're picking up on that, but I got like a vanilla on the finish.
It almost, to me, has a Knob Creek, aged, older Knob Creek smell.
Agreed.
I don't know. Do
Agreed.
you?
Agreed.
But the one thing I will say is I didn't know until I was doing research for this that Old Fitz was a Heaven Hill product. And I think last episode or first episode I had mentioned that the Heaven Hill 7-year bottled in bond is probably one of my favorite bourbons, available bourbons. So that was kind of interesting. And then Athena's, one of Athena's favorites,
that's right. The McKenna.
Henry McKenna,
Yeah.
is same distillery.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that we like these. Okay, so now let me read to you what I took off of Breaking Bourbon's review, because usually we try to read the review from the distiller, but since this was a few years back, they only had the current version, I think 8-year or whatever it is up. So Breaking Bourbon said on the palate, now tell me if you get any of this:
Okay.
cherries, strawberry jam, figs, French vanilla ice cream, and excellent. Do you taste excellent? That's try it.
I thought I tasted excellent.
I kind of get the strawberry jam if it was fermented strawberry jam, which is not good.
And then on the finish, they say dry aged oak, which I do get a little of the oak, butterscotch, vanilla custard, leather, a cigar box that we've all licked before, I guess, in near perfect intensity. And I would think that the end it's a good finish.
I like the finish. That's
It
where
is.
I'm getting the vanilla.
Unlike the E.H. Taylor rye that we tried, we should have got the Old Fitz instead.
That's
I mean, we're all a big fan of Taylor,
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
and
Just
we
not
thought
the
for
rye.
sure that they finally had a bottle at One Bourbon this week, and we tried it, and
Nope.
no,
So Matt told us before we tried that whiskey that they only had 2 bottles in the last 2 years in the restaurant because it's very hard to come by. And you put this sort of expectation on trying something so rare that it's got to be amazing because it's not around or it's hard to find or man, I feel like we got set up.
We did. But it did get better with when we put a cube in it. It was a
It
little
did.
bit
what a
more
segue
palatable.
into our
know.
next
Boom, boom,
segment.
boom.
You would think that was planned, so
I didn't even know.
you did well with it.
Thanks,
so
buddy.
putting that cube in it, Joe, it opens it up for you, right?
Yeah, it did.
All right. So I came across an article this week that I thought would be really relevant to the subject we wanted to talk about, and that was about whether whiskey should be done neat or on the rocks
I know Eve's answer.
On the rocks all the time.
all the time.
All day, every day.
And
If you're going to drink it at all.
I mean,
Come on.
for the most part, Eve, I'm with you, and that's what I kind of like about us, like especially the group of 3 when we're going out. Like we typically try it neat first, just to get the way the distiller wanted the whiskey to come across.
And a sidecar of ice so that we
That's
can
right.
adjust to our tastes.
That's right, and then we are not afraid to make it ours. Which based on what I learned in that article, and also through a recent podcast that I listened to called Whiskey Noobs. Shout out to Whiskey Noobs, in case he wants to shout us out back. But he did this great article where he was comparing the same whiskey, and then he would add drops of water to open it up, and he really discussed the whole process of adding water or ice to whiskey and how it does open it up. It lessens the proof. It typically makes things less harsh on your throat. It really just it can change the entire experience altogether. So the reason why I wanted to bring that one up is because in some ways there's lots of obsessions with whiskey. Would you guys agree?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, because you can encounter people, and we have, where water and ice is a sin
Yeah.
to add to whiskey. Is there anything else you guys can think of as far as like whiskey goes that people are obsessed with, or drinking in particular as far as whiskey?
Blanton's. Everybody
Mm.
that hasn't tried bourbon or is just getting into bourbon, like I know, and we'll have on I think Linda from one of the local liquor stores too, and I'm curious to get her take on that, because it's pretty much everybody that goes in, except people like us, that's what they're looking for. Blanton's.
Oh, is it?
And they get so tired of hearing about it.
Is that like the gateway drug for whiskey? Blanton's is the gateway into whiskey obsession?
It's a hell of a marketing plan, is
really
what
is.
it is. You put little pretty horses on the top of the bottle. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Blanton's,
Yep, it's good.
but I'm not the guy anymore that goes out looking for it. If I find it, I'll pick it up if it's minimum pricing or regular pricing.
Yep.
But I'm not out hunting for that at this point.
Because how many bottles of it do you have in our basement currently?
I can spell Blanton's.
Twice.
Not twice.
Okay.
I have extra characters just in case I lose one.
Oh boy!
You are never going to get that spelled out because it requires finishing all of the bottles, which you will not do.
Not until I have a second set of Blanton's bottles.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you
I
always have to
understand.
have your drinker and then
Yep.
the
And then you're
backup.
backup.
Your daily drinker, yeah.
Yep.
You have to have 2 bottles of it. That's why Knob Creek 18 is still sitting in the box, because I don't have another bottle of it. But I probably should try it before I get another bottle.
I was going to say, if we try it, then I can be on the hunt for it.
That's true.
Because I got people all over the United States that give me a list and I'll find you stuff. So, yeah, you can find stuff in. That's where I got the Fitz 17. I was from a buddy in Denver. So, yeah.
love
Okay.
it.
Any other? So from a whiskey standpoint, which are there any specific bourbons that you like better with ice? Like you're like, if I get that, I'm always putting some ice on it. For me, it's barrel proof stuff. Anything that's over 120,
Yeah.
110 proof, I'll try it first.
Yep.
But 99% of the time, I'm putting a small ice cube or a couple drops of water in there.
Open it up, take out the burn. Yeah, absolutely. And I like my bourbon. I like it cold. I like I really do like it chilled cold, like so even if I would put it in the freezer so it's cold in the fridge, I would prefer that over a warm. But I try it warm. I try it like they have it. But I enjoy it more on that temperature. Not sure why.
Is that a thing in bourbon? Because I know, like with red wines, they're better warm, and you heat them in your hand as you swirl them. And,
Yep.
and white wines, people like them better
Cold.
chilled. Yep, cold. So are there bourbons that are served chilled normally?
Old fashions.
Yeah, but those are really more on the rocks
Right.
than actually like put the bottle in the freezer.
True.
But
Manhattans, they chill
Yep.
with ice and then pour them in the glass.
speaking of old fashions, I had the ultimate best old fashioned I've ever had in my entire life when I was in Louisville, when I went to the 7th Bourbon and Cocktails. Oh my gosh. It was incredible. Incredible.
What was different?
The bitters that they use, completely different taste profile. It was just not like your typical old fashioned. It was a little bit different. Just the different flavors that you were tasting as you were drinking. I mean, I want to take you guys there so you can come to this place. It's incredible. It's an experience for sure.
Hashtag Joe the Experience.
Oh my goodness, yes.
We coined that. Athena coined
That's
that
right.
term
She did.
That's right.
on our previous episode.
Yeah.
She did.
That's
Okay.
Our username.
So, Dee, are we going to talk about obsessions?
You know, it is one of our subjects today, Joe.
I like it.
So let's start off. Let's level set before we get into obsessions and get too deep, because there's definitely a difference between obsessions and passions, right? There's things that we're passionate about, and then you get all the way to an obsession. So one thing to make sure that everybody's aware of as we begin this discussion is that obsessions really get to to meet the definition of obsession, you have to get to that negative, consuming, thought-consuming, relationship-destructive sort of place in order for it to be an obsession. So a lot of times that's so OCD or something. And truly, there's something happening with people who are diagnosed OCD, right? It is destructive to them. What we are going to talk today about is kind of like in that borderline of sometimes at moments it's obsessive versus it's really a passion or something we're just headstrong diving into and oblivious to the rest of the world. But just want to make sure that we're very careful with the difference between the two, because sometimes I argue that is it really an obsession? But Ryan has some really good points where there's periodic moments where we can admit some things do become an obsession and take us over. So
I think it's a fine line between passion and obsession. They're two sides of the same coin, and that finding that balance between the two can be tricky sometimes.
that's true.
Weave
Agree.
back and forth between the two.
That's why you need somebody like Eve to keep you in check and
Yes.
point out when things are going overboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all have that Eve, right? So that'll keep us in check and it'll let us know when we're going a little bit too far.
Maybe pull the reins just a
Yeah,
little
just
bit.
a little.
Yeah, I've got a good one too. You know, it's not only just like friends that are there to help kind of balance you and level set you, but your partners, your relationships otherwise can be pretty intense and pretty important for you. So let's talk a little bit about some of our interests that may have kind of borderline from that passion into possibly an obsession. Who wants to start us off?
I'll start. So the first thing,
You just want to get
that's why I'm going pre-Eve here.
ahead of it.
I think for me, I from a personality standpoint, I think I have an addictive personality. So if I get onto something, I'm like 110% in, all in, and that becomes my life for a period of time. So growing up in college, I DJ'd for a while, and that was probably the first thing I remember as an obsession on my side, because it was Columbia House music, BMG music, dating myself back to the 90s, early 90s. But it was like every one of those that came out, I had to order 10 more CDs, and I'd cancel and order 10 more CDs, renew, like to get all the CDs to build up my collection. But then it was, now the next gig I've got to get better speakers. I've got to get better mics, better lights, better everything. And I would be at the music store, not even understanding delivery times and all that, 3-4 times a week. I'd go to the music store in Mansfield or in Columbus and see what was new. And like, I got to the point where it consumed a lot of my time, just
And funds.
and funds.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
it was like every event that I DJ'd went into investing in new stuff, and my rates never changed, which I was not a good business person back in college, but it built a pretty good collection of DJ equipment that
Which we still have in our basement to this day. Thank you very much.
And speaking of,
he can't get rid of it either. Even if he's never going to use it again, he's like, but I paid a lot of money for that. I'm not going to get back out of it what I put into it, so I'm just going to hang on to it.
it's kind of true, but now would honestly probably be your market to do it. It's interesting, as so I have a side business. I do reselling. I love to buy things at a yard sale, thrift sale, like buy it cheap, flip it online. So I can tell you, and this leads me into possibly like a couple of my recent fits or collections or obsessions or passions or however we get to that. But just learning like the fads that are coming back again, CDs, cassettes, records, they're all hot right now. And in like a collector market, VCR tapes are hot. Like if you can find a sealed VCR tape, like of certain, it's got a little seal on it and like a little, I forget what it's called, a mark. It's amazing, Ryan. You should go through your stuff and
I know what I
purge.
got.
Yeah.
I would love that. Could we do that?
I bet you I have no less than 500 CDs in the basement. Now, they're not in original, they're in a binder, because that was easier to
Sure.
track.
To transport.
Oh yeah. CDs are not as collectible, but to me, like I've gone down that path where I'm like, I got rid of all my CDs, cassettes, and records a long time ago, and now I'm recollecting them. I am back in there collecting the same things that I had. Everything I used to have, like from Shania Twain country to Gravity Kills, kind of like that.
Wow.
What was that music called? What did we call it?
Grunge?
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Well, everything that we owned is now vintage.
It is vintage.
So I have a basement full of vintage stuff.
Well,
if
we're
anybody wants to come
moldy.
help me purge it, that would be great.
Buy it. I'm not getting rid of it for free.
Vintage is the hot thing. I know when we were our kids' age, like, who wanted vintage stuff? I mean, it was not as cool then. Now, and by the way, the true definition of vintage is anything over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shit. Our stuff's antique. What's the definition of antique?
100 years, but we're getting closer to that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
But
Not
by the
me.
way, our kids are now vintage. Just saying. Well, Eli's getting closer.
Getting closer.
Yeah.
So for me, for my borderline passion obsession, I started collecting autographed sports memorabilia. So I get jerseys, I get footballs, I get basketballs all signed. So then you get that first one, right? And then I'd be on a hunt, and I have a buddy that lives in Illinois, and he would take pictures of these athletes and stars. And so he's really good at finding me stuff, and he'd write me, and he's like, Joe, I found X. So I love Tom Brady, so I have a lot of Tom Brady signed stuff, and it's not just his name. I got, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of autograph stuff. So I love him. I love Kobe. I got LeBron. I mean, I got a bunch of stuff, and that I was just kind of collecting. And now it's like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? But it was just like almost, I don't know, it was bordering obsession. Because I was like, oh my gosh. And I mean, the money that was flying out the door, I'm really glad I don't have kids. But it was definitely that borderline for me. But I was told by my partner, you're done. So I have not bought anything autographed in probably about 6 months. So I'm being a good girl.
Do you still go look for stuff?
A little bit.
Window shop?
I window shop, but I do not buy.
Is there anything out there that's like the big white whale of the one thing that you would be willing to break that for?
Gosh, I don't know. It would just have to hit me between the eyes. There isn't like this one thing I have to have, because I got this really cool Tom Brady jersey that has 4, like his signature, but then he's got 4 different things that he wrote on this jersey. And that was like...
None of those were OSU sucks, was it?
It was not.
Okay.
It was Boston Strong, but
Okay, gotcha.
I was really proud of that jersey. But I don't know.
Just real quick, we hit 30 minutes, so it's time for the reach around.
Oh, yeah.
Eve, you're the guest,
Yeah.
Oh, good.
so you
I
get to do the reach around.
I assume the small one is mine, right?
There we
Yep.
go.
Just again, we're talking reaching for the bourbon glasses. by the
Right,
way.
right. Thank you.
And then I was going to ask Eve if she has any obsessions or passions while we're drinking this. What is our reach around?
Yeah, what are we drinking here?
Oh, so back to the Heaven Hill topic. This is the Heaven Hill 7-year bottled in bond.
So you love this stuff.
I love this stuff.
Okay.
So Heaven Hill.
The look on Eve's face, though, I'm sorry.
Oh,
That was like not a bad look.
You know,
So
that was my, this isn't that bad. I might have found a second one that I can drink. Somebody write that down.
Boom.
Okay.
Shakalaka.
I'm sorry.
You don't need
missed
ice.
it.
No.
okay.
Wow.
Okay,
Good
sorry,
catch.
Athena.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just going to repeat for the audience that, part of the reason we chose Heaven Hill as our reach around was because Fitz and Heaven Hill are both the same distillery, so they kind of had that commonality together. So
This one's a little more mild than the.
yeah,
I think I'm going to have to look up proof
yeah.
on this one, but I think I'm guessing 90. I'll do some fact checking. Don't send
yeah.
us hate mail.
Yeah. That's nice.
Okay, Eve.
Okay, so I would say that my passion is probably swim coaching. And fortunately for me, I get paid for my passion, which is awesome.
$2 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot. I try not to calculate my hourly wage because it's probably not great, but I love it.
Most salary employees do feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's, if you ask me at 5 a.m. in January when I'm getting up for swim practice, maybe I don't love it that much. And then if you ask me like 2 weeks ago when the boys are all in taper and they're stupid and crazy, I don't love it at all. But I do actually very much enjoy.
How does it feel, though, to be on your 4th consecutive conference championship?
I mean, that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Shout out Ottawa.
Yeah,
And
Ottawa
Coach
Hills
Eve.
won their 4th consecutive conference championship. I always tell the boys, like, it makes no difference in my life whatsoever. I get a way to go coach and a t-shirt out of it.
And thrown in the pool.
And thrown in the pool. But it's fun. I enjoy when I'm competitive. I try not to be super duper competitive and mean about it, but I do enjoy winning, and that's a lot of fun. So yeah, I would say probably earlier on in my career, I was bordering on obsessed a little bit, because coaching does take a ton of time and emotional energy. And I recall I think it was early when I was coaching here at Ottawa. We had moved up from Indianapolis, and I was getting ready to do my first taper with the girls. and I was up until like 3 a.m. trying to write the perfect taper workout. So yeah, that was maybe a little obsessive. I like to think I have found a good balance at this point, though.
What's a taper?
So for like 2.5 months, I beat the snot out of the boys.
Okay.
We swim hard every day, all day. And then the last 2 weeks before their championship meet, we back off on the distance. I increase the intensity, but I also increase the rest.
Okay.
So they feel like super energized, and we build up some of those fast twitch muscle fibers. And so when they get into the conference championship meet, they can go really fast and drop a bunch of time. Plus they shave and they put their tech suits on. And
Do you like coaching boys or girls better?
oh, boys, for sure.
100%. You know what? I had a feeling. I talked about this on episode 1 about
Yeah.
how I like working with boys over girls.
Yeah. Well, and I coached co-ed. That was awful because you have to be two different human beings when you're coaching a girl and you're coaching a boy. And when they're on the same pool deck together, it's real hard. So I did not enjoy that at all. And I coached the girls for a couple of years. And to be fair, I really loved each of the girls individually, and I'm still friends with some of them. But you put them together in a group, and oh my goodness, it just like some of it too was I was a young mom and, maybe a little hormonal, and that team was mine. I swam at Ottawa Hills when I was in high school, and I was a captain on the team my senior year. And so coming back and seeing how it had changed, I think I took things kind of personally with the girls. It was like, well, you don't want to put in the work, then that's somehow a reflection on me and not on you. And but mostly it was the drama. Like you get a bunch of girls together, and like boys have drama. They do drama, but it's different, and it's solvable usually. Like you get done yelling at a boy, and 5 minutes later you can still be good friends.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. So coaching girls and boys is the difference between training cats and dogs. Like dogs, you reward them with food, you swat them with a rolled up newspaper if they're being really bad, but they will still be your best friends and be excited to see you every day. If you're trying to train a cat and you ask it to do something that it doesn't want to do, the claws come out, and then you may never be able to pet that cat again, ever. That's just how it is.
That is a really good translation.
Yeah, it is. I love it.
Boys are puppies, and girls are kitties.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, Eve's obsession, like what triggered for me, I appreciate that you said at least you got paid for yours. And, I think we could have a whole other subject about the pay structure in our education system because, coaches in high school fall into that.
Mm-hmm.
You're subject to the school board's budget and what they can afford, and
we have experience with that.
I think I see that happening, but it translated for me because I touched on it earlier. One of my passions, I would say that I borderline get obsessed with and then have to be pulled out of is that reselling thing that I did for the last probably 3 years now, because I would literally plan my day around, sourcing, going to garage sales on a Saturday morning, and then, prepping my material and posting it, packaging things up. After work, 9-10 hour work day, I'd be down in the basement for hours, packaging things, posting things, researching things, learning about things, and, for my side of the obsession, it didn't become like problematic to the relationship or anything like that. But what I realized is it was consuming my house, because probably like Eve has to remind Ryan of all of his
Lack of storage spaces for bourbon.
You only have or guitars or, you only have so much room in your household to have collections of whatever kind they are, whether they're temporarily holding on to something while you sell it and make money. I keep saying to Sarah, I'm like, but this stuff that I'm storing in the basement is making us money, and I am letting it go. I just bring more in, there's like this balance, and there is that fine line that we were talking about earlier between being passionate and getting to an obsession. So I think it's really interesting to make sure you have this healthy take on your life.
And poor Ryan, and poor Eve, because I bring stuff like there are 2 bottles up there from me. So I bring stuff so Ryan can store it. He's like, I got your box downstairs. So I bring stuff to live here.
Yeah, and she doesn't open it, so I'm not allowed to drink it
Yes,
until
you
she
are.
gets here and opens it.
Well, we can open it and drink it.
That's true.
You can always open stuff. You're my pal.
I try to keep them boxed up, though.
Okay.
Otherwise,
You can always
I
drink my
might.
stuff, my friend. You can always drink my stuff.
He's got plenty of his own. He doesn't need yours.
He needs, well, I have different stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
we try to complement each other,
We
all
do.
3 of us. We get different stuff.
Yep.
So you had to bring up my guitars. So,
Well, if it
That
wasn't me, it was
one-
probably Eve.
Yeah,
well, those stay out of the way, mostly in the basement.
mostly.
But there was a time, for a year or two, that was one of the obsessions I had.
Yeah.
And I don't actually play a lot, but I thought they looked cool. And we had a really good year at work.
Yeah.
And I was going to get a Gibson Hummingbird, which, if anybody knows, they're very expensive and top of the line. I played it, and it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. So I ended up getting a Taylor. And I have probably had it out of the case 4 times.
And we have a banjo,
And I do have a banjo.
which he has forgotten about.
That's in the box.
No, I think isn't it hanging in my office right now?
No, it's in the box in the basement.
Oh, okay. Because we had to move it out of the office when Mishka came.
So, what makes collecting guitars? What makes a collection fall into an obsession for you, Ryan?
Is he buying one? Because then there's going to be 15 more of them. I mean, that's really what it is. Like he gets one, but that's not enough because then we have 3 sets of golf clubs. Only one of us, now 2 in the house play golf, but Ryan has 3 sets of golf clubs.
Yeah, but that's different because one's for my dad
Okay.
when he passed away, and Eli has that one.
Yep.
And then I had another set which Eli loans to his friends.
Yep. Or me.
So skip the golf club. that doesn't count.
Let's get
It
back to
doesn't
the
count.
guitars.
See
Yes.
how you can work around it?
So
Yes.
I love it.
so high school I was in a small band
Okay.
and played, and then I played trumpet for 5 through 12, so 7 years. So I did play music. I was kind of a musician, not really professionally. But then I had a guitar, and I always, predating my DJ phase, that was the other thing I went to the music store for, to see what used guitars come in, because in college I couldn't afford, buying a Fender Stratocaster or Gibson Les Paul or anything like that. But there for a while I was playing here, and I'm not that good, and I was never playing in a band, but I think I always wanted a Stratocaster. I always wanted a Gibson. I always wanted a Taylor. And when I had the financial means to do so without not eating for a week,
Right. Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it did
usually-
not break the bank.
it didn't break the bank. So going back to your definition that you read earlier, but that could fall into, is it impeding your ability to survive, or financially?
Navigate relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one was probably more of a passion than an obsession, but the whiskey,
Oh, the whiskey.
that
It all starts with the whiskey.
that
Really.
may have been the biggest obsession. And what makes me say that is it pretty much impacted everything we did when we went places for about
sure.
2 years.
Yeah.
So we were in Colorado and Breckenridge. Where are we eating dinner at tonight? First thing I do, go look at the whiskey menu. And which I'm glad I did, because I got to taste 2 or 3 Pappies at Whiskey Star, I think, in Breckenridge.
Yeah.
And then that was when Eve's friend AJ messaged me and said, hey, you need to talk to my husband, Jason, because he's big into bourbon, which started that friendship out of Chicago. And but our trips to Ohio, it was planning the route. We have a route to Ohio that's optimal, but
there was we need to stop in Toledo. Why? What's in Toledo? Well, OHLQ says that this particular store has
Two Weller antiques.
two Wellers, and you have to come in and buy one because I can only buy one at a time. So you have to come in and buy one too, so I can get 2 bottles.
And
So
guess
I
what?
was an accessory to some
I
of
love
these
it. I love it.
things.
Guilty by association.
I mean, a little bit. I'm not going to say I enabled it, but I certainly didn't shut it down.
No.
So
I mean, and that's the same driving down 28th Street in Grand Rapids. There's 4 liquor stores. And anytime we'd go to the grocery store, I hit all 4 of them
all 4 of them.
until I figured out when the delivery dates were. And now
Now there's a strategy.
now there's a strategy behind all of
Now,
it.
now it's
no
like, oh,
point in
Wednesday we
stopping
need
it.
to go home for lunch because then I can make my stop on the way back. All right.
You're
I-
a good partner.
I do think there's like so much gray area right before obsession, right before your passion, because I don't see it like, and maybe Eve has more stories that may or may not belong here on this space, but it seems like you're incorporating your passion into the other things that you're doing, i.e. going to Ohio for family or going to school functions for Ohio State. I mean, did whiskey ever control the things that you did? Did you do it because of the whiskey? Did you plan trips because of the whiskey?
Not necessarily full trips, just the route to get to the end
We were already going to
destination.
be going to Ohio anyway, but we were going to make 4 extra stops, so you needed an extra hour added on to the 5-hour
Makes sense
trip.
to me. Makes sense to me, buddy.
That sounds like a little, zealous. Maybe getting close to over zealous. But, I think it's super interesting, as we are entering the age that we are entering into where we are, I don't know, we're coming into that place in life where we're not struggling in our 20s to start our lives, our families, our relationships, our households. We're kind of in that place where we're like, we've got a little extra money, right?
Yep, a little extra time, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, our kids might be leaving the house and the time might be opening up for new hobbies and adventures and
But you still got to pay for
collections.
those kids. You still got to pay. I mean,
Yes.
I do not have that money burden.
You know what, though? We have 2 kids that would love to be sponsored for college. Or
That
our
out-of-state
son,
tuition is crazy.
our son hit us up the other day, and this is a side digression, but he sent me a text and said, would the family be interested in sponsoring me going to a Drake concert tomorrow night? And it's like, what do I get out of this? Or we get out of this? I'll send you pictures and video.
I would like to remind our son, who, when you listen to this, we did not get pictures or video from that concert. There was no proof that you went.
But you sponsored.
But
Look
we
at
did
you guys.
sponsor.
You guys are so
Yeah.
awesome.
But the funny part about that was he sent the amount over, and he goes, hey, it's $100. And I thought, Eve goes in the chat, she goes, well, we'll split that with you. He goes, no, that is your split. That's half.
Ridiculous.
So
hope
definitely
he had
a
fun.
fortunate kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I have not seen any videos or pictures of this. But he'll be home for spring break
Good.
next week, and we're going to sit down and hopefully he recorded something.
Good.
And he also saw Travis Scott.
Travis Scott.
as
That one was
the
cheaper.
other sponsorship. That was a lot cheaper. But
Oh, I cannot wait to talk about our kids and the way their brains work. It's so, in the moments it might be a little frustrating, but when you sit back and you think about how innovative and creative and they are just applying things that they're in their late teens and early 20s that I probably never would have thought of until I was at least late 30s.
but
This
we
is
didn't
a-
have social media feeding
No.
it to us either.
That's true.
You are
And
absolutely.
YouTube
Oh my
and-
gosh, that's gonna be a great. Stay tuned for episode something or other where we're gonna talk about this one pretty good. Ooh, that'll be good. We should
Yeah.
interview our kids.
So
yeah.
any others before we move on?
Yeah.
No, I think I'm practically perfect in every way.
Obsessions.
Okay.
Oh, I have a lot, but I'm good.
So, go ahead, Athena.
No, I'm sorry, Ryan. You were going.
So just something pop culture. Like what do you guys see from pop culture where you think, oh my God, people are so obsessed with X or Y.
Well, I have never gotten that because I knew people all through my life, but high school mostly, where they were like, oh my God, so-and-so. And they have, posters on their wall and every single album. And BTS pops into mind recently, Taylor Swift, obviously. But
Swiftie.
I have never, I don't get it. I don't understand why people are obsessed with these individuals, and they know exactly what they're doing every day, and where they're traveling, and
It's kind of
what their
scary.
project. It is a little bit, and I don't get it.
I think it goes back to that information is out there. I mean, so Swiftie, let's talk about that. There was and I don't have the information directly pulled up in front of me, but there was a young man who was able to track her jet on that concert coming back from Tokyo to come back for the Super Bowl. And he was tracking the exact location of her jet the entire time. And was he using information that was publicly available? I mean, does
Yes.
she have the right to sue? But my problem is that's an obsession. It is, because and then who's going to sit there and watch somebody who's tracking a star like Taylor Swift?
But somebody does,
because the information is out there.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. I think that the wealth of information we have available is pushing what would have normally been I'm passionate for this music, I'm passionate for this band, into this level of I got to know what Taylor Swift is doing. I got to know what the Kelsey brothers are up to, or whatever, sports, music. Don't even get me started on politics. There's a whole obsession happening that doesn't make any sense to me other than the comedic relief that it is.
And that's on both sides at times.
Yes.
I agree. And it's because it's out there, and because people can actually take what you say in this very second and cut it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you said before or after. If they snip a soundbite of you that's exactly what they wanted to hear you say, and I say you as mostly influential people, and they throw it out there into the world, they can make it their own message. Whether your entire message was about that one little snip of sound or not, that's what the people in the world need to be aware of and careful of, is the context of the information that they're consuming and the passion with which they're taking that information back and making life-changing decisions.
Right.
And it's even worse now with AI being
Oh,
able to
gosh.
generate. I was watching a thing on TV the other day where I think it may have been President Biden. There was an AI generation of him doing a robocall telling people to support something that wasn't
Wow.
something
Wasn't
that
real.
that they were supporting or stand for. I don't remember the details, but I mean, there are a lot of stories about AI generated stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that'll be another podcast episode, is AI and
Misinformation.
misinformation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Using the tool for good or for evil.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
What about you, Joe? Any other pop culture things you can think of? Obsessions or otherwise?
Did you ever follow anybody? When you were in high school, did you have a poster on the wall or something?
I loved me some River Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what grade I was in, but I had his poster all over. I loved River Phoenix. And then I stopped after he passed away. I just stopped. Yeah, well, that was my guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
What about you, Eve?
Oh, no. I could not. Music was not a huge thing for me. Pop culture was not a huge thing for me. Even now, swimmers, I know swimmers because I follow the news, but I don't follow them obsessively because I don't put that much energy into it.
Mm-hmm.
Although I know some people who do, and, good for them.
Yep.
What about you, Ryan? Any pop culture obsessions or at least passions you might have?
No, not really, unless you think of something I'm missing,
No.
which is why you're here.
No, your stuff is all physical things that you can purchase. Now, if you could purchase celebrities, maybe that would be a different thing, but we're not there yet.
Well, I will say, since we got the Grand Rapids Rise, I do follow a lot of them
Yes, you do.
online, and
but not in a creepy way.
not in a creepy way.
Real quick for our listeners, the Grand Rapids Rise is a brand new professional women's volleyball team here in our city. Eve and Ryan have season tickets, and Joe and I are at least there for half of the season. It's exciting. We're highly supportive. It's brand new for the area, so
Yeah, and those girls are amazing.
They
Yeah.
are amazing.
They're some
Yeah.
serious athletes.
fantastic athleticism in the teams that we've seen play against the Rise too. You know, it's been amazing, and it's great to see the community come together.
It's fun to watch and look around in the audience and see all the little kids just get so excited. And there was a little girl like the next row up from us, and just her yelling, and she's so excited for the teams. It just makes me, it's women supporting women and these little girls, and they're empowering them, and it's just exciting.
And they're available, like, for after every game.
Yes.
They're there to meet the kids, fans,
Yeah.
sign autographs, and I think it's a very positive influential environment
I agree.
for the community.
Well, and let's be real, we've watched a couple of Rise games on YouTube, including last night at a bar on his phone. We're sitting there eating dinner at the bar watching the Rise game on YouTube on his phone, because of course you don't see that on bar TVs. But yeah. So maybe
You might someday, though.
Yeah.
someday. I'm hoping soon.
mean-
I'd like to see this volleyball thing take off, because
I
it's a
love
lot
it.
of fun.
Yeah, it is.
Me too.
So if any of our listeners have any obsessions they want to
Right.
tell us about, ontherocksproduction.com. We will have our website up here in a couple of days with a comment section. We're just doing our final edits there. You can also reach us on social media. It Starts With Whiskey on Instagram, Facebook, and then we'll have all of our Rye Guy Whiskey GR for me on Instagram.
D.C.
D.C.
No.
Not on Instagram. This is all, there's a lot of work that people don't understand involved in the marketing side of things.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll get all of our social media stuff up for you.
Contact info.
Contact info. And
Yep.
Eve, thanks for
Yeah.
Keeping Ryan
helping
in
us with
check.
my new podcast obsession, which we didn't even talk about. But
Yeah,
no,
no,
that's
this
kind
is-
of a thing.
That is becoming an obsession.
Yeah,
But
getting there.
you know what? It's
like
fun.
a job.
It
It
is
is.
like a job.
I mean, you guys were planning out the next, 3 or 4 weekends that are day. Which days do we have free that we can do this? So now I got to figure out if I'm not on the podcast, I guess I'll put some headphones on and go play some video games. Maybe I can get obsessed with those again.
Thank you, Eve.
Thanks for
Yes,
having
thank
me.
you so much, Eve. Thanks for keeping Ryan in check here and always. We appreciate you. But thank you everybody for joining us on episode 3, Obsessions.
Yep.
We appreciate you going through this journey with us, and we will catch you next time on It Starts With Whiskey.
Have a good day. Thank you.